Hey friends, it's me, Christiana Gaudet, your tarot fairy godmother, and it's time for class. We are doing a tarot spreads techniques class. If you're joining us live, it's so great to see you. Thanks for being here. If you are watching the replay, thank you for being here. Definitely leave any questions or comments in the comments. This spread is available to you in the in the community thread. If you go to the community tab, you can find this and download it for yourself. You don't have to, but you can if you want to. So nice to see all of you. Of course, a special shout out to the members and the moderators. Horse fan Don, thanks for being here. Thanks for being a member. You've got dinner guests coming, but you will watch in replay, so thank you for that. All right. I'm so happy to see all of you here. Thanks for being here. Okay, tarot spreads. So let's first of all, just definition of terms. For the purposes of this class, and I think in general tarot nomenclature, a tarot spread is a designated pattern with a specific number of cards and each position having a particular meaning. Okay, so a positioned tarot spread. Hey, Frank, nice to see you. Frank Kwiatkowski. Glad you're here. So so that's when we refer to a tarot spread, we're referring to a specific pattern like this, where each position has a meaning. And in a way, we can look at it like each position asks a question. And so in a tarot spread, the position can provide a lot of context. Now, I think there are a lot of readers, and I would love to see a show of hands of people here who tend not to use spreads or are a little freaked out with spreads because you're not confident either knowing what spread to use for what kind of reading, what kind of question, and or not confident reading cards in the spread's positions. Perhaps you've had an experience where it felt like the cards that came up in the particular positions did not make sense in that context, and you didn't know what to do with it. So let me know, have you had a hard time with spreads? In this class, there's a lot I would like to share with you, but I'm also very open to your comments, your questions. Have you had a hard time with spreads? Do you have spreads that you particularly enjoy? What is your relationship with tarot spreads? Now, I believe that every tarot reader kind of develops their own choreography, their own way of doing a reading, which will be the sort of way they do a reading, 90 times out of 100 at least. And that may grow or change over time. But it's a pretty standard, like in each reader's practice, there's this standard thing. And it may or may not include a spread. However, I believe that to be a great tarot reader, you need to know how to perform numerous techniques. Not all of them, because there are so many, but many. So position spreads, non-position spreads, dialogues, free-form card pulls, all of those things. So even if you're a person who has a really good tarot reading choreography that does not include positioned spreads, I still think it's a good idea for you to know how to do it, because there are times. Okay, Jen, where the community tab is, sure. If you go just to the front page of the YouTube channel and you scroll across the top, it'll say like membership, playlists. One of those tabs is community. And there it is. And thank you so much for being here. So what else do we see? From Jenny, yeah, that would be me. I don't use too many spreads. And Jenny, thanks for being a member. We appreciate you. Justine, thanks for being a member. Thanks for being a moderator. In the past, I struggled with creating my own spread. It's all a process for me. Sometimes I'll spend multiple days working and perfecting one large spread for a project or a trip or weekend. I actually love that. I love that you do that. That is so cool. And then Justine goes on to say, I'm getting faster and faster at creating situation-specific spreads on the go now, and it's starting to become a fun activity for me, and it helps in my practice overall. I love that. Thank you. Thank you. Ness, thanks for being here and thanks for being a member. My difficulty is sometimes it mirrors the problem question so much that I don't know what to do. Like, I know that already. Right, where the cards come up in the spread to basically say, this is the situation. And so what that offers you, when that happens, and this is a really, everyone pay attention to an important technique, because yes, that can happen. You can put out a spread and it will say all the things that are going on, which is great. If you're a professional reader doing a general reading and you're like, okay, let me see what's up, and you're able to say, okay, I see you got this, 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 and this. That's a great start for a reading. If you're reading for yourself, it's like, yeah, I already knew I had all those things. What now? You take it as validation and then formulate questions based on, okay, now we know all of this to be true. Let's formulate some questions and go deeper. The spread may begin the reading, but not end the reading. The spread may end the reading, but not begin the reading. The spread may be the whole reading, right? All right, and Frank, I love doing small spreads for daily use and larger spreads occasionally for greater depth and context. Beautiful, beautiful. All right. And that's a helpful thing. If you're from Justine, if you are creating your own spread, and I'd love to see the virtual show of hands. How many of you create your own spreads? You know, for how many of you is that a thing? Creating your own spreads. We'll talk about it because I think it should be a thing for all of us. For all of us. And the question that Justine asks herself when creating a spread is, what is the information I'm trying to get out of this reading? Yes. And so Ness says, so I will usually prefer to ask something, then ask depending on the card. I wasn't really doing that, as a response to the spread. Right. Oh, okay, right. So asking questions as a response to the spread. The spread may simply provide you with the questions, not the answers. The spread, so that's a great way to start. What are we expecting a spread to provide us with? A spread may only provide you with the questions you're going to need to ask. A spread may only provide you with validation of what's going on. And so I think we make a mistake thinking that the spread must be the whole session. And many times it mustn't. Peggy Lou, nice to see you. Thanks for being a member. So you create spreads all the time. Lisa McCord, nice to see you. I don't create spreads so much as I just start laying cards down in whatever arrangement I'm inspired to do. And so we could call that like a non-position spread. We're just going to put cards out in whatever pattern you want without really looking at, what each position might mean. And I think that's a very legitimate way to read. And, looking at what cards come up in closer proximity to one another can be really interesting. Absolutely. All right. So, see, Justine, I even have a spread on my tarot app that looks at what is the next topic I should read on? What is the next question I should explore? What should the spread focus on? What should I wait to read on at a later time? That's really kind of cool. I love that. I love that. So I thought today I would use a small deck because that way we could really see a larger spread. Let's see. Gina Rutledge, nice to see you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a member. I had difficulty fitting the cards into the context of the read in one or more positions doing a read. I wanted to rethrow the read, but walked away from the reading, then back to it. It worked well. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. The cards will always fit. If you're not seeing it in the moment, sometimes, yeah, you need to walk away and come back to it. Now, sometimes, like if you're like in a reading, you're reading for someone, you can't walk away, just get off that card and go on to the next thing and then come back to it. And we're going to talk about tricks for what you do if you feel like the card doesn't make sense in the position. We're going to talk about that. Sarah, thanks for being here. Thanks for being a member. When I first started tarot, I relied on spreads to help me phrase my questions. Now, thanks to me, thank you, I understand how to have a back and forth dialogue with the cards. Right, and probably, my favorite kind of session starts with a spread and ends with a dialogue. That's my favorite way to do it. So, let's talk about some different kinds of spreads. I would posit that all spreads could be divided into two categories. One is predictive and one is contemplative. A predictive spread will have positions like future, final outcome. And so the card that falls into those positions would be, meant to be read as a prediction for the future. So that is naturally a predictive spread. Now, if you are not a predictive reader, you can still use a predictive spread. Just use those future positions as things you want to think about in the future, things you want to be aware of in the future, rather than specific predictions. Now, there's something that is conversely true. If you're working with a spread that is a non-predictive spread, like say body, mind, and spirit, suppose a card falls into the body position that is a very difficult card, and yet you, to your knowledge, have very good health and have a good, self-care routine. That difficult card might be predicting a problem coming up. And obviously, we don't scare ourselves, we don't scare others. Oh my gosh, you're going to have a terrible health issue or health event. But it could be helpful to say, everything feels good now, but maybe not everything is good. Maybe not everything is going to be good. So, what's my point here? My point is some spreads are specifically predictive. Some spreads are not. They're more contemplative. If you are a predictive reader, you may find predictions within a contemplative spread. If you are a non-predictive reader, you may still use a predictive spread and just not use those future cards as predictions, rather what you're going to contemplate, right, in the future. All right. Sarah has a burning question. In what situation would you use a spread rather than the dialogue technique, or start with a spread then incorporate the dialogue? So 95% of the readings I do start without a question. It's my preference. If my client does not prefer that, then we'll start with the client's question. And if we start with the client's question, I am very likely to go right into dialogue, or create a spread specific to the question right there on the spot. When do I start with a spread? I start with a comprehensive spread. Not this one. I use my 11-card Celtic Cross, but it covers the same bases. What is a comprehensive spread? A comprehensive spread is a spread that will cover most departments in life. And that's where it's so great for a general reading. You don't need a question to start, because here's all your departments of life. So typical comprehensive spreads would be Seven Sisters, Celtic Cross, Astrology Wheel. Those three are really the most common. There are many others, and you can devise one as well. Just thinking about what are the departments of life you would always want to cover in a reading. So most readings will start with, let me just see what I see first, and then we'll get to the questions. The Celtic Cross comes out, I see what I see, and I come up with my list of questions. The client has their questions. I'll pick up all the cards. I'll shuffle them again. And then we'll dialogue doing question by question, right? Or topic by topic. Because really, do we have questions or do we have topics for questions? Because that's the other thing in a tarot session. So like the question may be, what am I going to, it may be about my career, but that's like, what do I do about my job? Am I in the right career? What's going to happen? Should I look for something else? There's a million different questions within that. Okay, DH wants to know the dialogue method. Okay, we can take a step away from spreads just for a moment, and I've done other classes on this you can find, but let's talk about the dialogue method. So the dialogue method, very quickly, this is how I do it. You might do it differently. And this is what I call it, Other people may call it the same thing or something different. A lot of readers, this method developed very organically for me because it got the answers. I didn't learn it. No one taught it to me. I didn't read it in a book. It just developed. But other readers have developed it too. So I invented it for myself, but I didn't invent it for the world, right? Because other readers have come to the same thing. So you have your question. So say the question is, okay, this is, we're reading for a person who does not exist. This is completely imaginary. But the question is, I don't know what to do about my career. I have a job and I don't really like it. So we might start with, okay, what do we need to know about your job? So I pull one card, I see the Knight of Wands reversed. Clearly, this is not where you want to be or where you want to go. This is not the field you want to be in. If this didn't answer the question, and see, okay, so in my head, I'm like, do I want another card about that? Do I want more cards about that? Or is the question answered and now I have another question? For me, at this point, the question is answered. What I know about your job right now is this is not in the field you want to be in. There's nothing about this that you like. Okay, so then we say, okay, what field do you want to be in? Do you know what field you want to be in? And I might just ask the question of the client. I'm not necessarily going to go to the cards. I might say to the client, well, do you know, I know this isn't what you want to do. Do you know what you do want to do? And if they say, yeah, no, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And a lot of adults have that problem. So then I'd say, okay, well, what would be a good career for you? Five of Pentacles reversed. There has to be opportunity for growth. Four of Swords. It can't be chaotic. You don't like a chaotic environment. Queen of Swords reversed. Extra points if there are no bitchy people there. So you want to be more insular. You don't like to have to deal with a lot of chaos or a lot of personalities. Eight of Pentacles reversed. Now we're going to talk about education. What education do you have? Are you willing to go to school? Because to do all of this, it might be a work from home job, might be good for you. You might need some schooling or some certification. So then we're going to go on from there. We'll pick up the cards and then we'll talk about that. And the great thing about always picking up the cards and shuffling them back in is it allows for cards to repeat. You'll start getting stalker cards within the reading. A card will stalk you throughout the reading, and that can be very, very telling. All right. Okay, Sarah says, I love the Seven Sisters. I began using it when we get together with the neighbors. That's so good. Oh my gosh, this spread has helped you come out of the tarot closet and you learned it from me. That's so good. Oh my gosh. All right, so when we talk about creating a spread, I just want to say, you could create a spread that you would use over and over and over again. You could create a spread that you would be your primary spread. You could create a spread that you would publish in a book and then other people would use it as well. Or you could create a spread for a specific situation, right? Suppose you had a family crisis that you were dealing with and you wanted to do a spread about it. You might have one position for each family member and their agenda. You might have, If it's a family problem, you might have someone from the other side from the family ringing in on the problem, whatever you wanted to do. And that would be a spread you would use just once for that situation. Lisa, you have the handout of the Seven Sisters as well. Yeah, I love this spread. This spread was given to me my very first psychic fair, the very first time I worked professionally. I went into the fair, got there early to set up, and my concern was the readings at the fair were 15 minutes. I had never done such a short reading. I always did readings that were like an hour or more. And I never worked professionally. And I was given this spread by one of the other readers saying, you can do this easily in 15 minutes. I didn't use it that day, but it stayed with me because it is such a good spread. What I did that day is what turned out to be my technique, my 11-card Celtic Cross, because here's the trick. You can do a spread of any size in any time period because you don't have to interpret all the cards in the spread if you don't have time. I'm going to say that again. You don't have to interpret every card in the spread if you don't have time. So if I put out my 11-card Celtic Cross, say I'm working a party, I've got a cattle call, and I'm trying to keep these readings to like 5 minutes, okay? I'm going to put out my Celtic Cross. And again, I'm not reading for anyone particular. This is random and imaginary. But say I put out this spread. And I'm going to use my intuition and what I see in the cards to decide which things I'm going to say. I'm not going to go through in 5 minutes and say, your first card in this position, who you are at this current time, is the King of Cups reversed. That could mean that you are this way or that way or another way. I'm not doing that. No. I'm looking at this and I'm saying, look, I've got two aces, Ace of Cups, Ace of Pentacles. Over here in the position of love life, the Ten of Swords. Temperance having to do with people around. Judgment in the foundation, these two being so sort of near each other. Nine of Swords reversed in the past, Nine of Pentacles in the future. I'm going to do that like real quick. Not saying it out loud. That's just a second as I'm looking. And then I'm going to say, okay, a few things here are really important. I see opportunities for new beginnings, especially where work is concerned or money, and having to do with love and relationships. That can be fixing relationships that have been difficult. It can be new people coming into your life. One thing that is really interesting is I feel like you have been going through a whole healing process where you're developing a lot more confidence in yourself, and other people around you are seeing it too. Now, one thing that I am both concerned and confused by is your romantic life, where I see a great deal of pain and difficulty, but also a great deal of opportunity and possibilities. So I feel like we should talk about that. There. That's what, and then, at that point, the person will be like, yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. We'll pick up all these cards and then dialogue on those. You're gone. So that's how we do that. All right. Yeah. I think I was just looking at what Justine was saying. I love this story and all of your origin type stories, but this one is neat about learning how to dialogue because I had to really quickly. Such good intuitive workout doing this over and over again, I bet. Yeah, the cattle call, like you just have to do it, right? You just do it. You just get into it and you do it. And some people do it better than others. Some people are more naturally comfortable with it than others. But yeah, it absolutely is. All right. So this comes to the whole question of, techniques. So what did I just tell you? What did I just tell you? I told you that you don't need to interpret every single card if you don't have the time. You can use a large spread because that gives you more chances to pick out what's important and read on those things. Now, what else did I tell you? You don't have to go card by card as you interpret. And this is the thing, and this is really the heart of what I wanted to talk with you about in this class. That is how we interpret spreads. I think very often, you buy a tarot deck and there'll be a couple of spreads, or you buy a tarot book and there'll be a couple of spreads, but they don't really talk about what is the actual technique when you're reading for yourself or reading for someone else. What do you actually say? How does this work? So let's talk about it. There are many ways to do it. It's not like some are better and some are worse. I will choose how I'm going to interpret a spread based on intuition, based on how much time I have, based on the cards that are coming up and how I'm feeling it. So, the first technique we'll go over is that card by card method, where we're going to start with the first card and we're going to say, okay, well, this position is the past. The card that falls into this position is going to talk about something from your past that is influential in terms of where you are today. And the card that has fallen into this position is Justice Reversed. So that says to me that in the past, you may have felt that you were really treated unfairly. Were there some legal issues that did not go your way, or some situation where you really felt treated unfairly? That seems to be pertinent to where we're at now, right? So we talk about that, right? So then here is the present. We have the Three of Wands reversed. So when I see this card in the present reversed, I'm going to say you're not feeling successful and you're not feeling like you're set up for success. Now, when we looked at the past, clearly here you were not set up for success either. Is there a pattern here? Are you carrying this energy over like you really are successful now, but don't know how to feel it? Or is there a pattern? Let's see, right? And we go card by card. That's a way to do it. And you can put the cards out one at a time, or you can put them all out and then go card by card. Both of these are ways to do it. Now, what else can you do? Well, you can put all the cards out and start with the card that pulls you most. Start with the card that feels most important, or the one that you want to talk about most. Justine, I love that about this Seven Sisters spread handout you have here. The little descriptions for the positions kind of suggest the technique to use in interpreting them. And that's really important. And we're going to talk about that too, how different positions, and there are some positions that are very standard in tarot spreads, right? A crossing card or a challenge card, a self card like a significator, past, present, future. These are very typical. No matter what the spread is, that, these are typical. So we're going to talk about how to interpret those particular positions, because that's a trick as well. Okay. Now, so suppose you put out, so let's do that again for no one in particular. Let's do those seven cards. We'll do that seven sisters. So I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to look and I'm going to decide where I want to start. And I might start with one particular card that grabs me, or I might look at the trends. We have two kings. In the present and in the future, two kings. So what the heck is that? Is that two different companies? Here's where you work now and here's where you're going to work. Two different men. Here's who you're dating now and here's who you're going to date. Or just two different ways of being. Right now we're being creative, but in the long run, we're going to be focusing on making the Benjamins. So we may look at that. We may look at trends of uprights versus reversals, majors versus minors. And I'm going to want to interpret trends At some point in the game, we're going to interpret those trends. But I might start out interpreting the trends and then look at the individual cards. Or I might look at individual cards first and then do the trends. Now, at StarCon in 2024, Mitchell Osborne is going to be teaching a class on this very technique. He calls it layers, reading tarot in layers, where you're going to want to look at the spread. Now, let's talk about the colors of the cards. Let's look at the images and how they match. Let's look at the numbers. Let's look at, all the different, let's look at the distribution of suits. All of that. Frank, the right to left dealing of this spread always throws me off a bit. Well, that's how you know I'm old. When I came to it, we always did right to left. There was you would never do left to right. You just never would. You do a 3-card spread, it's always that way, right? Right to left. It was always that way. That was just how I was taught. And now I don't know if I was always in the minority or if it is a generational thing. I just don't know. I assume it's generational, but I really don't know. And, if you want to do it the other way, you can do it the other way. Just always do it the same way. That's the key. You can say, I would much rather read left to right. No problem. Just always do it that way. So Sarah says, for this spread, I like to pull all 7 cards and then read them because I like to see the relation of the cards to each other before interpreting them one by one. Yes, like if any of the characters are facing each other, yeah, that's good as well, absolutely. And Lisa says, I've noticed that Christiana lays her cards down right to left on the 3-card weekly readings. Right to left. Yeah, and that's just how I learned. Now, Jill, when did you learn? You and I, you're a little older than I, so we're in a similar generation. But how old were you when you learned? What decade did you learn in? And what book did you learn with? That's the question. And again, there's no right or wrong. It's just sort of the way. And yeah, Jen, I really do believe, and I think that was even explained to me, that the idea of going right to left was, that Jewish mysticism aspect of tarot was honoring that. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So, Jill, I am not older than anyone. Oh, right. Understood. You learned right to left from me. Okay. So, Miss Alex, can you pick the first card to start with on feeling while they're still turned down? Yes. And that is, what a good question. Just a really simple question. These are the things they don't tell you in the books. How do you want to pick the cards? Can you pick by feeling? Can you, it's this one. Yeah, you could do the first card that way. You could do every card that way. You could have your client do it that way. And in fact, if you've got the time to do it, it is a really sacred and special thing to do, to fan out the cards. And if you're doing it for yourself, do it. Or if you're with a client, have the client do it. Rub your hands together to open the palm chakras. Take your left hand and run your left hand over and wait for the pull. And when the card pulls you, that's your card for that position. You can do that for the first position. You could do that for every position if you want to take the time. And if you do, it's like this beautiful ritual. It may be, Frank. It may also be Eastern. Yeah. Okay. So, Jill, you learned left to right from me? That surprises me because I'm almost always right to left. That surprises me. All right. So, other ways of pulling cards. Like the 3-card reading is such a popular thing, right? You can pull your 3-card reading, just, shuffle, cut, bada, bada, bada. There's your 3 cards. That was right to left. No, sorry, that was left to right. You could also do it left to right, bada, bada. There's your 3-card reading. Or you can do the fan and pull your 3 cards that way. Or you can do this. and turn over the top of each pile. And the beauty part on that is that allows you to go a little deeper, right? And it allows you to see what's underneath. So you can turn any 3-card spread into a 9-card spread that way. Ah, Gina, right to left. Yes, right to left. Very good. And court cards, and court cards were descriptive of people. First deck, 1979. You have me beat. You got your first deck before I got my first deck. Put them down for a while and relearn last couple of years. Things have changed a lot. Right. And I like the changes on the court cards. I was there from the beginning with the changes on the court cards. Yes, Eden Gray. I started with Eden Gray too. Absolutely. Jill, you saw me do it right to left, but your brain can't do it, so you do it left to right. That's fair. That's absolutely fair. So yeah, the logistical questions here, I think, are so important. So important. Now, let's talk about the contextual questions. The thing that makes spreads so daunting in that the position feels like a tight box that you're putting the card in. And what if that card doesn't fit in that tight box? So, right, Gina, it's good to play with the court cards the way we are, for sure. Justine, when I'm doing an options type spread, I'll cut into 3 piles. Middle pile is the root of the issue, and advice is drawn from. First pile will be the cards for the X. Third pile will draw cards for the Y. I love that. That's really smart. I love that. So did y'all get that? Like, she is drawing as many cards as she's going to need. So it's like a spread and a dialogue together. So like, should I eat ice cream or cake, right? So this middle one is going to be advice about my obviously bad dietary questions, right? This one is going to be about ice cream, and this is going to be about cake. And I'll pull as many cards as I need. Is that how you do it, Justine? I love that. I love that. All right. So in astrology, we talk about things that are fixed or mutable. Fixed or mutable. I've decided that tarot spread positions can be fixed or mutable as well. What the heck do I mean by that? Did anyone's head just catch on fire? I hope not. What the heck did I mean by that? Well, oh, Justine, that's exactly how you do it. Yeah, I love that. That's so smart. That's so smart. Did you make that up? If you did, you've invented a tarot technique, which we all should do. We should all invent tarot techniques, right? We all should, because we all can. All right. So, fixed versus mutable. A position like recent past, something that has happened in the recent past, that's going to be pretty fixed because, okay, like the only difference is like what's recent. And recent is going to be, it's still hurting you. So if it's the person who broke up with their boyfriend 5 years ago, but they're still upset and that's what the reading's about, okay, 5 years ago is recent past. If it's the person who just lost their job 2 days ago, okay, fine, recent past is 2 days ago. But beyond that, it's not really mutable. So let's play with that recent past. Suppose this card came up in the recent past. 9 of Cups reversed. Here, you know what? Let's use, for this exercise, let's use a different deck that's going to be easier to see. We'll use this deck, which is Connolly. All right. Recent past, the High Priestess. The High Priestess was in the recent past. Okay, what are we going to do with that? If you want to take a stab at this, tag it HP. What would you say about the HP, the High Priestess, in the recent past? In the recent past, you may have been in a situation where you had to keep someone's secret, and that was uncomfortable. In the recent past, you may have found yourself being held to a very, very high standard. In the recent past, you may have really been delving into your intuition or learning meditation. You knew something was up. You were staying silent. Right. So there you go. So that's not mutable. That's pretty fixed. But significator, who you are at this current time, is that more fixed or more mutable? In a way, it's really fixed. Who you are is who you are. But how are we going to interpret the card in that context? So let's move on to significator, who you are at this current time. At this current time, you're a person who's really working towards your success. I would say this is a more fixed position. At this current time, you're a person who is not seeing your way forward, right? So what did we just learn there? You, in a more fixed position, you can use the name of the position to form the sentence of your interpretation, right? That significator position. This spread has it, it's card 4. Who you are at this current time, who your querent is at this current time. And it's a fun exercise to just sort of say it before you even pull the card, right? At this current time, you are needing to be social, right? And just finish the sentence. It's a great exercise. Okay, and lots of good stuff for that HP position. Lisa sees the HP, death in a family or friend. Gina agrees with Jill. In the recent past, you may have known what was up. Peggy Lou, in the recent past, you may have learned some secrets. It wasn't really with that card, Sarah. It was just me thinking about it and thinking, it really is fixed because who you are is who you are, right? I had to play with it in my head to do it, and I did it with that card. So it wasn't that card that made it fixed. It was just that card that made it fixed in my head. But any card would have. All right. So what is a more mutable position? How about the crossing position, the challenge or obstacle? I think that one is very mutable, because it could be so many things. How about the foundational position or the past position? It could be so many different things. Okay, so Gina, so how do we do that with the HP in the recent past? So in the recent past, things might not have been as you thought they were, and you listened to your gut, but did you? That might be can we have a conversation about that? That may open us up to a conversation. Justine, advice position is very mutable, right? So give me examples of the cards that you would see in a challenge position. No. Give me an example of cards that you would see in any position in a way that's challenging. Like, for example, the crossing position. What card is challenging in the crossing position? Let's see. Like, for example, if you've got in the challenge or crossing position the 8 of Swords, that's easy, right? Because, we're feeling stuck. We know we're feeling stuck. We're anxious. We are stuck, that's easy. But what if in the crossing position was the 6 of Wands, the card of winning? Well, that might be clearly you're feeling like you're not winning. Okay, justice reverse. Well, okay. Justice reverse in the crossing position. So in the crossing position, I see the reversal as negated. It's because it's always reversed in the crossing position in a way, right? So justice in the crossing position, how would we do that? About justice in the crossing position, I would ask first about court issues, literally about legal issues. Then I would ask about issues of fairness. Are there ways you're feeling treated unfairly? Then I would ask, are there ways you're feeling out of balance? Okay, so if the HP was in the challenge position, High Priestess in the challenge position, so that's interesting. Then what might the challenge be? It might be perfectionism. Are you a perfectionist? Because we all know perfectionism is a trauma response, right? So yeah, HP in a challenge position, I would say it might be perfectionism or someone else holding you to a possibly high standard. Jen, that's a very good one. Yes, justice in the challenge or crossing position, perhaps you're being unfairly accused. Right, so getting positive cards in the crossing position, that's a hard one. So let's say, okay, the Empress in the crossing position, issues with your mother, problems with your mother, problems with your kids, problems with pregnancy. That's pretty easy. Ten of Cups in the crossing position. Could be your happy family isn't as happy as you thought it was, or as other people think it is. Could be you don't have this and you want it. So yeah, positive cards like, okay, Ten of Pentacles in the crossing position. Could be there's issues with real estate. Could be there's issues with ancestry. Could be there's disagreement in the family. Magician in the crossing position. Magician in the crossing position. If I saw the Magician in the crossing position, I might ask about school. Are you in school thinking about going to school? Problems about education? What about problems with being open-minded? Maybe you're not being open-minded enough. What if it's just like really clearly you're not thinking you have the tools or the skills or the abilities you need to do what you need to do? What if it's a communication problem? Any of those things. What about judgment in the crossing position? My first go-to would be closure. Putting closure. What do you need to put closure to? What don't you have closure to that you need? That's where I would go right away. So, Justine said a smart thing, and I did this for a reason. When I wrote this out, I did it for a reason. So, past. How do we interpret the past position? We do so many spreads with past positions, but I'm 60 years old. I have 60 years or 59 and counting years of past. What the heck? Okay, so this one is for me. I'm going to do a card for me about my past. This is my past. Okay. Ten of Swords reversed. So, a significant influence. Here's what I said here. A significant influence, event, trait, or value that happened or was formed in the past. So you see how that gives us a lot of room. Now, for me, I can say that yes, this absolutely is my past, where I had to get out of some very, very difficult situations. Yes, absolutely yes, absolutely yes. And I would take that the 30 years ago. So now let's do another card for my past. 9 of Swords. Yes, I did struggle with depression very significantly. Put that about 40 years ago. Or I didn't sleep well last night. Put that 16 hours ago, right? So there it is. So yes, when you read the descriptions here, definitely use that to help you understand not just how you would want to read these positions, but in general. Okay, tortoiseshell moon, sun in recent past position. Okay, recent past isn't an issue, but still, sun in the recent past is kind of interesting because, like, what? Did you get a sunburn yesterday? In the past, you were happy. In the past, you thought you were happy. Interesting. Lisa Harmon, that Ten of Swords reverse looks like a person about to give birth. Seriously. So, So let's talk about small spreads. Obviously, I like larger spreads for general readings, and I've given you this one. It is on the community tab. You can get it and play with it. Enjoy it. Let me know what questions you have. That's your homework. But let's talk about small spreads. We know a lot of 3-card spreads, and we've already talked about some different ways to do 3-card spreads. No, we've still got 10 minutes, Justine. We've still got 10 minutes, but I should say, yeah, we're down to our last 10 minutes. So whatever spreads questions you have about cards and positions, about different spreads, about making spreads, this is the time to get those questions going because we are in our last 10 minutes. So small spreads. We talk a lot about 3-card spreads, but I also love 2-card spreads. One 2-card spread that I love that is a great decision-making spread. If you're making a decision, how will this help me? How will it hinder me? Should I, at first opportunity, go buy new clothes? Real question. How will it help me? 3 of Swords reversed. Well, it would certainly cheer me up. How would it hurt me? It wouldn't hurt me at all. I'm going to go do it. There you go. There you go. Help and hinder. Here's a great relationship. It can be any kind of friendship, work relationship, any kind of relationship spread. Working with the theory that we are in each other's lives for a reason. Okay? This is why person B is in person A's life, and this is why person A is in person B's life. Those two people should never talk again. Sorry. So what 2-card spreads or 3-card spreads do you use? I will very often do a thing when making a decision. I will do a weighing of the cards. And it's really, which card do I like better? So do I want the red one or the blue one? Definitely the red one. It really comes down to which card do I like better, and it may be which card do I like better in the context of the question. Jenny, my favorite 2-card spread is opportunity and challenge. Where's the opportunity? Where's the challenge? Now, when you're performing a spread for someone else, you can tell them the positions and the names of the positions and the names of the cards, or you don't have to at all. Now, once you have interpreted cards in positions, it's okay to let the cards come out of their positions. So there's times that the card makes sense for the person, but not in that position. Let the card come out of the position and interpret it however it makes sense, but then also figure it out. Figure out how. Play with it. Play with the wording. How could this card fit in this position? How could it? Play with it. Walk away from it, come back to it. But also allow it to come out of its position. Interpret cards in the position, but allow them to come out of the position. Sarah's still playing with ice cream or cake, right? Justine, I recently started doing a 2-card spread where I cut into 2 piles. Pile 1 is the question, pile 2 is the answer. That's good. If you just want to play with your cards and you don't really know what to do, that's great. Here's the question, here's the answer. I love that. That's so smart. That's so smart. So, why did I give you this spread? I gave you this spread as homework, learning a comprehensive spread. And I gave you this spread to practice reading spreads in different ways. I want you to think about the idea that a comprehensive spread does not need to give all the questions. It could just it doesn't need to give all the answers. It could just ask the questions. And then you can do more readings to give the answers. Tortoiseshell Moon, Kathy, I often do 2 cards, what to embrace and what to let go of. Yesterday I got 9 of Cups. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I really wanted someone, thank you, I'll pay you later. I really wanted someone to give me an example of how to do this. Yesterday, I got 9 of Cups on what to release, and I couldn't work it out. Okay. 9 of Cups in what to release could be telling people you're happy with something when you're not. Feeling guilty for not being happy when you're not. Trying to act happy when you're not. You know, like I think it has to do with your relationship with happiness and unhappiness and how you might not be honest with yourself or others about what makes you happy or doesn't. How about that? Joyous Ocean, this is in the community tab. You can find it on the community tab. Justine, I've been doing some decluttering lately and I've gotten the 9 of Cups a few times. I think this is one of my new decluttering cards, as several have come forward to speak on it. 9 of Cups can represent a drunk person. Oh, that's good, Lisa. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. So, the key with interpreting a card in a position that doesn't make sense is like, well, am I doing it too much? Am I doing it too little? Am I doing it in a way that doesn't serve me? What is my relationship with this thing? And that's what you can ask. Okay, what's a keyword for this card? Okay, there's the keyword. What is my relationship with that thing, whatever the keyword is? And then how does that fit in the context? So that's a way of doing it. Does that make sense? Do we like that? All right. So we are coming to the end. So it is time for our final questions. Peggy Lou, yes, this spread is in my book, Tarot Tour Guide, page 81. Is that in the first edition or the second edition? All right. I do want to let you know I am not going to be here for the newsletter recap tomorrow. I've got some things, I'm working, but I got some stuff going on, so I will not be here. I do apologize for that, but there it is. Would I ever think of the 9 of Cups as showing off? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely could. Yes. 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 And as with anything, what you see in the moment is what you see in the moment, and there it is. The problem comes when you're not seeing anything in the moment, and what do you want to do about that? That's where you just want to take a deep breath and start playing with it, play with the words. So what I did with 9 of Cups for Tortoiseshell Moon makes perfect sense, great, is I played with my keyword for that card, which is happiness. So then what could it be? All right. All right. So remember that a tarot reading could include many spreads, a spread, and then some other techniques. Second edition, Peggy Lou. Thank you. Or no spreads at all. And remember that you will be the best tarot reader you can be if you learn a lot of techniques, even if you don't use all of those techniques, because the day is going to come when you're going to want to. And that does bring us to one final little nugget I want to give you is, how do you know what spread to use for what kind of question? And I would say, if it's a general reading, a comprehensive spread always. A well-being question, right? We can do body, mind, spirit really easily. Relationship questions, there are plenty of relationship spreads. But I would also say the more specific the question, the better it's going to be to either create a specific spread for that question or do the dialogue. The more specific the question, the less likely you're going to find a one-size-fits-all spread that's going to work. So there's that. So think about that, because I think that's another question people have, is not knowing when to use a spread or what kind of spread to use. So that's going to be your rule of thumb. The more specific the question, the less likely a ready-made spread is going to do the job. All right, my friends, I want to thank you so very much. Really appreciate you. Take good care. You can see I'm starting to get September classes up. You can see. You're going to see Metallica in Dallas. Oh my gosh, Sarah, have such a good time. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. Enjoy. And thank you. I will look forward to seeing you again soon. Be good. Take care.